What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today is July 11th, 2019. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the death of actor Rip Torn, who is best known for his appearances in the films Men in Black and the television series The Larry Sanders Show. Throughout this video, we'll be talking about how his death and the date on which it occurred relates to the debut and release of these two, the film and the TV series. If you're new to this channel, I talk about numerology with a focus on Gematria, or the practice of coding numbers into words. This practice dates back to ancient Hebrew and Greek languages. In Greek, it was called isopsophy. In Hebrew, it was called Gematria. And this practice is very much alive and well in today's English alphabet. Now, previously, whenever I talked about deaths, I always talked about people being murdered by the numbers. I did a video yesterday on the death of Ross Perot, who passed away the same day as Rip Torn, and that man was 89 years old. And I don't know for sure how these alignments occur, because for people to die by the numbers at this age, perhaps they would need to be kept alive. So I'm not going to, posit one way or the other if these people are being murdered or if these deaths are actually occurring organically or just naturally this way. The organic matrix, I talk about it regularly in a lot of my work on my blog. It's very real. So again, I'm just going to present you the numbers and let you decide what is happening. But, if I were to venture a guess, well, I don't know. Let's just get into the numbers and talk about how not only is this code in effect, but how the mainstream media who writes these stories is perfectly aware of this code. Let's begin with the gematria of the headline. So we're taking each letter, adding the number in the position of the alphabet that letter sits, and adding them all together. We're also going to include the number 88 as a full number. And in gematria, this headline gives us a sum of 830. And why does this stand out? Well, consider that the gematria of the word murder, of course, that could be how this man died, using the reverse alphabetic order, where Z is 1, Y is 2, and X is 3, the word murder sums to 83. But what really stands out about this is how murder in the alphabetic order, where A is 1, B is 2, and Z is 26, the word murder sums to 79. Rip Torn passed away on the date July 9th, written 7/9. Again, in the reverse alphabetic order, the name Rip Torn has a value of 79. He passed away at the age of 88 years, which gives us 79 in reverse. But check out the town in which he died, Lakeville, Connecticut. The town of Lakeville, in Jewish gematria, our large number cipher based in the ancient Latin alphabetic order. This is the one cipher I really do teach outside of the base methods in every video. And notice how Lakeville has this value of 790. In numerology, these zeros are ignored. So this represents the number 79. Now, in my videos, literally every one, I talk about prime number relationships and how significant they are. And this number, 79, the date on which he died, the number found in his gematria, this is the 22nd prime number. And this takes us to our next part of the post. If you measure from Rip Torn's most recent birthday, which was February 6th of 2019, measuring to the date that he died was a span of exactly 154 days. This CNN article was published on July 10th, so news broke the next day. And if you don't include the end date, July 10th is also 154 days after his birthday. But more relevant is that this is exactly 22 weeks. We'll talk about the 154 down here. That's a big part of this too. So he dies on 7/9. His name equals 79, the 22nd prime, and he dies exactly 22 weeks after his birthday. Now, as CNN, points out, and they want us to know, there's an element of clues and hints in these articles, and they want us to see this. So we're going to look at the two series that they gave us in the headline. The first one being Men in Black, and what's really interesting about the date Men in Black was released. First of all, it was released in the year 97, and the date that Torn died can also be written 9/7, as it is in most parts of the world. But how about the date that this film came out? July 2nd, 1997. This brings us to the total eclipse code. Now, in my videos, I very consistently discuss how this code is built around total solar eclipses. And this all originates in the Bible. In fact, it's very logical when you think about it. In the New Testament, in 3 of the 4 Gospels, it said that darkness fell over the sky during Jesus' crucifixion, and many historians interpret this to be a solar eclipse. This painting here depicts the head of Jesus in front of the sun. So the crucifixion related to eclipses. This year's total solar eclipse occurred on the date July 2nd of this year. Of course, this year. And again, that was exactly 22 years to the day after Men in Black was released. So this year's solar eclipse exactly 22 years later. And in the language of Gematria, the phrase total solar eclipse gives us a value of 202, which is a lot like the number 22. The name Torn in reduction gives us a value of 22. Now, in the alphabetic order, Torn sums to 67. 67 is also a prime number. This would be the 19th prime number. And why is that interesting? Well, Rip Torn passed away on the 190th day of the year 19. Again, 190 representing the number 19. So the name Torn, with its prime number relationships, clearly present in the numerology of his death. Speaking of the word death, it sums to 97, just like the 9th of July, just like the year Men in Black was released. And just to show how these numbers are so intertwined, the word eclipse in reduction sums to 33. And most people do believe that Jesus was 33 years old at the time of the crucifixion, which makes sense since this is the value of eclipse. Now, we mentioned how total solar eclipse sums to 202, like 22. And there's a big connection here. Consider the date February 2nd, for instance, written 2/2 or 202. That's the 33rd day of the year. In the King James Bible, which is the Bible used by the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, the most ubiquitous secret society in America, notice how Genesis 2:2 is the 33rd verse of the Bible. So once again, we have a 22-33 connection. And both of these are master numbers, 22 and 33. And look at the gematria of this Bible verse. The 33rd verse of the Bible sums to 1033. How interesting is that? Now, in this verse, the 33rd verse, it talks about the 7th day. On the 7th day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And look at this. 7 days equals 33, and 7 days is exactly 1 week, which equals 33. Rip Torn died on July 9th this year, which was exactly 1 week or 7 days after the eclipse. And think about this. King James Bible. We're talking about the King James Bible, right? Early last year, I made a post about how LeBron James, he turned 33, and then 1 week later, he scored 33 points. LeBron equals 33. James equals 33. He was playing the Utah Jazz, who definitely have a 33. What is it? I'd have to find it, but and then he scored 33 points against them exactly 1 week later. So that's how this code seems to operate. LeBron James, King James, you know. All right, so let's get back to the death of Rip Torn, because there's so much deep coding here. We talked about how Rip Torn equals 79, like the date he died, July 9th. Well, also consider that July 9th in Gematria sums to 110, 43, and 47. The name Rip Torn equals 110, 43, and 47, so it connects to the date multiple ways. In fact, July 9th, 2019 sums to 110 as well. This is the gematria of the word death in prime numbers. Now think of the name Rip and how this is kind of related to R.I.P., rest in peace. Rip equals 43 in the alphabetic order. This is the same as killing in reverse, 43. The 43rd prime number is 191. This man's name, Elmore Ruel Torn, his real name, equals 191. And the date that news of his death broke was the 191st day of the year. The age at which he died was 88 years, which equals 191 in the alphabetic order. So this date definitely significant too, July 10th, and I want you to think about how this is written internationally. The 10th of July is written 10/7 in most parts of the world, a lot like the number 107. In reverse reduction, the phrase ritual sacrifice equals 107. Rip Torn was known for his role on The Larry Sanders Show, and The Larry Sanders Show was hosted or featured a man named Gary Shandling. Gary Shandling passed away on the date March 24th. And March 24th is exactly 107 days before Rip Torn died. See how in the alphabetic order, ritual sacrifice sums to 154? This is the value of Larry Sanders, 154 in that same ordinal method. Rip Torn died on the 9th of July, which sums to 154. And think about how this year, the 9th of July, had numerology of 55, which is the reduction value. Rip Torn passed away in Lakeville, Connecticut. Lakeville summing to 154 reverse. And if you measure from Rip Torn's February 6th birthday to the date he died, it was a span of 154 days later. News of his death broke exactly 154 days from his birthday, all tying back into the ritual sacrifice code, 154. Now, the number 154 perhaps draws its significance from its prime factorization. So all numbers are, of course, very much related to their prime factorization, and here we have 2 times 7 times 11. But another way to look at this is 22 times a 7. You take the 2 and 11, and 22. times 7. And when we're talking about 227, this is the number that draws us to the eclipse crucifixion code. Think about how an eclipse is an intersection of the two largest circles in the sky. If you divide 22 by 7, you get the first 3 digits of pi, 3.14. And in Gematria, 22 divided by 7 equals 314. The phrase total eclipse, which directly translates to full eclipse in Hebrew, even has a Hebrew Gematria value of 227. Alt 227 on a Windows keypad, in fact, will give you the pi symbol. So this is an absolutely huge number, 227. Ritual and symbolism, a phrase of Freemasonry, 227. Ancient accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry, 227. The Jesuit Order, or the Society of Jesus. I think this is actually in Jewish Gematria. Yeah, 227 Jewish ordinal. But the point is, it's a very significant number. And not only does the phrase eclipse crucifixion code equal 227, but using the English extended Gematria, this is the cipher that's more closely related to Hebrew Gematria, Greek isopsephy, but uses the current 26-letter alphabet on the left side of your screen. Eclipse crucifixion code equals 1433, which is the 227th prime number. So the number 227 is coded doubly into this phrase, and it's pretty amazing when you think about it. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I showed that properly, but yeah, here, 1433, the 227th prime number. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Again, they mentioned two series here, Men in Black and The Larry Sanders Show. So, we measure from the release of Men in Black, July 2nd, 1997, to Rip Torn's death. And look at this. We get 22 years and 7 days. So that's pretty interesting. What about The Larry Sanders Show? When did that first air? August 15th of 1992? Well, August 15th is usually the 227th day of the year, but because this is a leap year, it was the 228th. But if you measure from that date to the date he died, you get 1,403 weeks and 3 days. Again, like the number 1433. So, here I am. Here I sit every frickin' day almost and talk about how people are dying by the eclipse crucifixion code. And the freaking gematria of eclipse crucifixion code, which has a prime number relationship between the alphabetic order and English extended, is found in both of these measurements to the shows that they talk about. So, it's amazing to me that people out there still think I'm a conspiracy theorist when, in reality, we've cracked the code. Now, some people interpret cracking the code as being able to predict these things. It's a lot easier in retrospect, isn't it? But clearly, this is what's happening. This is the code that's being adhered to. And that's why I continue to think that people are being murdered, because why would this occur by the numbers like this? It's weird. You know, television series that they starred in, I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, let's look at a few more things. You know, we talked about Lakeville and how that gematria ties into this guy's death. Remember Lakeville, 790, like the date he died. He died 154 days after his birthday on a date with 55 numerology. Well, in the alphabetic order, Lakeville, Connecticut equals 216. And measuring from Rip Torn's birthday to the date he died was 21 weeks and 6 days. 216. Oh, wait. Now, in reduction, Lakeville, Connecticut equals 81. The name Rip Torn sums to 419 in Jewish gematria, which is the 81st prime number. So this guy could not have died in a more appropriate city. It's amazing. Also, his name with the nickname sums to 105, just like 88 years old, the age at which he died. In Gematria, 88 equals 174 in the reverse alphabetic order, and the date on which his death made news is the date leaving 174 days in the year. Also, measuring from that date to the date of the next total solar eclipse, it's exactly 17 months and 4 days. And it was the 174th day of the year. So that's pretty interesting, 88. Sorry, it was the date leaving 174 in the year. A couple more things I thought were somewhat relevant. If we instead measure from the end date of the Larry Sanders Show to the date that he died, notice how he died on 7/09, and measuring from the end of that series to the date he died was 7,709 days, right? Just like the date, 7/09, Rip Torn 79. So there, there's kind of a numeric connection there, I guess you could say. You know what else I just realized is that this is also 253 months. 253 is a triangular number. This would be the 22nd triangular number. 7979, the 22nd prime number, right? So there's, the 25379 right in the 22. It's interesting. So many numeric connections with this death, and I don't know if I'm getting just better at finding them and knowing what to look for, but it just seems like this code supplants itself, confirms itself every single time. Larry Sanders, also 55, just like the date he died, 55 numerology. Larry Sanders Show equals 75. He died a span of exactly 75 weeks before the next total solar eclipse. Interesting, isn't it, that the Larry Sanders Show sums to 252 ordinal and 2052 Jewish? Not sure how that's really relevant to this. It might not be. Rip Torn actually starred in one of my favorite films, Dodgeball, which I'm almost embarrassed to say that's one of my favorite movies, but I thought it was freaking hilarious. I was 19 at the time, what can I say? Something else I wanted to talk about, I was going to mention this at the beginning of the video, but I didn't want to do a separate video for this because it's a really short post. Maybe I should, but I don't have a whole lot of time tonight. So let's just quickly talk about this hurricane that's supposedly making landfall today. Maybe it has made landfall already. There was a tropical storm brewing in the Gulf of Mexico, and it seems like, I don't know if this is an older picture. Either way, this storm is set to make landfall today, July 11th. And I just found it interesting that it's called Tropical Storm Barry. And whenever I think about the name Barry, I think about our 44th president, Barry Soetoro. Of course, Barack Obama, not his real name. The man is not really who he says he was. The lineage is definitely in question. And, those people who were questioning his birth certificate and everything were completely right to do so. Anyway, when he was younger, his name was Barry Soetoro. So every time I see Barry, especially with a hurricane, my first thought goes to Barack Obama. And I thought maybe, this storm is possibly named after Barack Obama. And let me tell you, the numbers absolutely suggest that it is. So the very first thing we do, I always check the date of birth before the Gematria, because the Gematria is going to give you more numbers than their age, right? Usually something sticks out about their age right away. And if you measure from Barack Obama's date of birth to the date that this storm makes landfall, here's all the numbers you get. And the one that sticks out the most is, 3,023, because it's an exact number, 3,023 weeks with the end date included. And, a lot of people joke about Obama being the Antichrist, right? And it's funny. I mean, the name Obama equals 84. He was born on August 4th, 8/4. He was born on the 216th day of the year. And this is 6 times 6 times 6, right? So there's that connection. And the name Lucifer equals 323. So I think that's kind of interesting. But the reason this connects to his name is because his full name is Barack Hussein Obama. And look at the reverse alphabetic order. Barack Hussein Obama equals 323. On today's date, he's exactly 3,023 weeks old. So this is pretty funny. Also notice how Barack Hussein Obama equals 64 in reduction. Very. 64 in ordinal. Now, if we convert his age away from weeks and include the years and months instead, first of all, we notice that he's 57 years old, matching today's date numerology, 57, if you add 7 plus 11 plus 20 plus 19. And think about how today is the 11th of July, written 11/7 in most parts of the world. Well, Barack Obama is 11 months and 7 days after his birthday today. Also notice how he's 21,160 days old, born on the 216th day of the year. Maybe that's nothing. Also, he was born in the year 61. And this storm is hitting New Orleans, which is in Louisiana. Louisiana equals 61 in reverse. Now, to the conspiracy theory side of things, we've been looking at the date August 11th a lot. And there's a video on my channel talking about the Golden Gate Bridge, the numerology of San Francisco. I invite you to check that out. And I almost never, in fact, I do never make videos about future dates unless I'm like really sure something's going to happen or that it's a significant date. And I don't necessarily believe that something will happen on August 11th that we'll see in the news. However, this date is super, super significant this year, and we continue to see events in the news coded in relation to it. Now, what I noticed, and I never noticed this before, so maybe this is new, but isn't it interesting how his name now has the second after it, Barack Hussein Obama II? I mean, I didn't know this about his name, and maybe I just never really looked that closely before. But it makes me wonder if it's always been on Wikipedia. So I'm going to look at a really old entry for Obama and just see if I can't find if this has always been his name. Well, that's not any helpful. Maybe this isn't the right way to do it. Hang on. Let's just look back a couple years and see if he always had that second after his name. Yeah, I guess maybe he did. Well, if you include that, see this equals 181 in ordinal. Barack Obama's 181 in Jewish Gematria. So that's interesting. Using English Gematria, notice how this name sums to 811. Again, August 11th, written 811, the date we have our eyes on. And if you measure from the date of this hurricane making landfall, if you measure to August 11th, you get a span of 32 days. The name Obama equals 32 in ordinal, and the name Barack Obama equals 32 in reduction. So how about that? Lining up perfectly. And think about August 10th and August 11th this year. Tisha B'Av, the Jewish holiday of commemoration of the loss of the two temples, falls on August 10th and August 11th. And see how Obama's name equals 134 in reverse? Tisha B'Av equals 134 in reverse. And remember, the destruction of the two temples in America was on the date 9/11, and Tisha B'Av equals 9/11. Now, if you turn the 9/11 upside down, you get 116. Barack Hussein Obama equals 116. And if you include his full name, his name also sums to the 116th prime number, 641. Obama will turn 58 years old exactly 1 week before August 11th. And we talked about how 1 week is so significant, 7 days. And remember, August 11th this year has numerology of 58. And when we're talking about Tisha B'Av, we're talking about the commemoration of Solomon's Temple, which sums to 58. And the collapse of the Second Temple, 58, which was called Herod's Temple, 58. And whatever's going on this August could very well have something to do with the Third Temple, 58. Now, the 58th triangular number is 1711. And if you measure from September 11th, 2001, the date of those terror attacks, to August 11th this year, you find it's 17 years and 11 months. Now, again, I'm not saying there will be a terror attack on that date because the numerology is almost too obvious, but definitely a significant date nonetheless. And there are theories abound about what it really means. All right, 33 people watching the stream. I love it. Thanks to everybody who jumped in and contributed to the live stream today. I love how you guys always say no sound when it's just playing my intro. There's no sound on the intro, guys. All right. Well, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of time, so just shout out to everybody who's in the chat. Always remember, if you go to gematrinator.com and go to the top of the page where it says miscellaneous, there's a Discord chat link. So for anyone who wants to discuss the numerology talk after these videos, after these live streams, there's always at least 50, 60, 70 people signed in. I mean, it's not always the most active conversation, but people to connect with, people to bounce ideas off of, that option is always there. And thanks for the stars of David, Desi. You're the man. Someone just threw a question about the Gematrinator app for a phone. I started making one, but holy crap, programming is difficult for a phone. I'm not really a programmer. I just learned enough to make a website. And honestly, it's so much effort and work and so much to learn that I just don't have the time for it recently. Maybe one day it'll happen, but for now, you can open up the calculator on a website, on a web browser on your phone, and it's still going to work pretty well on there. So the app isn't exactly right around the corner, but eventually maybe that will happen. Sorry about that. Someone else make an app for me, please. All right, guys. That'll do it. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks again for watching. Peace, love, and God bless. See ya!